Now let's do this, the final part of the talk. There's still a few minutes, right? Let's talk a little bit about this success that I told you about, you know, this to me, astonishing eagerness with which people are consuming this public sociology. What are some of the empirical indicators of the success, relative success, and the dissemination of public sociology? First of all, it is shown in some departments. So besides Berkeley, there are now other departments who say, we specialize in public sociology. Florida Atlantic is one of them. In the United Kingdom, I wrote it down in my notes someplace, which I have right over there. I'm not going to look it up. Is it Birmingham City or something? No, not Birmingham. I thought it was Birmingham City. Sorry, excuse me. I should look it up someplace. There is a particular university in the United Kingdom where you can get your degree in public sociology. You can actually get a degree in public sociology. I'll look it up later. So you have, there's actually in the United States, there is a department that has a master's in public sociology. What you also see, what is more common, is that departments will say, we have an interest in public sociology, something like that. And indeed, what I've also seen are job searches for a professor, you know, who specializes something in public sociology. Then you have a number of special issues in journals in the United Kingdom, in the United States as well. You have several books. In preparation, I noticed actually when I was reading up a little bit about it, I noticed that Lord Giddings, you have to say Lord Giddings? What, Gibbons? You don't have to do that. Okay, it's good that I don't have to do that.
We're not particularly interested in titles in sociology.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's good. Good. Because he has a title, so fine. He actually devotes attention to it in his Introduction to Sociology book. Is it called Sociology? You know, the one that he co-authors with Mitchell Dunhire. And there is actually a chapter on public sociology. So you see, in other disciplines, it is particular. Public criminology, I think, is probably the kind of lead contender, probably because of the association with sociology criminology. But I've also seen references to public anthropology, public history, although some of these developments may have been more internal to those disciplines, I'm not sure. But there seems to be a bit of dissemination. Public criminology, plural, is now more and more popular also in the United States. In the ASA itself, there was a task force set up to institutionalize public sociology. So again, totally without debate, they just set it up. There is a newsletter section devoted to public sociology, and there is a website. This is the website. It's very interesting. This is American Sociology, public sociology. The first item, promotion and tenure. So the first item is about how you can get promotion and tenure when you're doing public sociology. So basically, why you should get tenure, although you haven't published anything, you did take your students to a protest movement, something like that. You know, there's public sociology practice, and then I cannot show you because it's actually not linked up. Then there are writings and teaching about public sociology. Both of those are under construction. I also noticed, because this is debate, this is public sociology, right? Look at all this debate, look at all these efforts that go on into bringing sociology outside the academia. The last entry in the forum was in 2006. So apparently this is, you know, this is what public sociology is in the United States. What are some of the conditions that I argue this public sociology became popular for? First of all, it obviously has to do with politics. This is actually something that I noticed was Burroway was quite honest about in the Strathclyde talk, because he said, you know, I noticed that when I gave these talks, that particularly in state universities, there was a lot of resonance. And indeed, it had to do with this discontent relative to the, you know, sometimes kind of elitist part of American sociology. So it's kind of bringing these alternative voices in. However, in the ASA, this was also very greedily accepted, which I argue has to do with the managerialization of the ASA. Basically what this means is the executive office of the ASA was very, very keen on adopting this public sociology. If you think about it, that doesn't immediately make sense. Because why would a professional organization that is interested in maintaining the status of the sociological profession bring in all this politics? Not because it's politics, but because it relates to publicity. It gives a certain cachet, if you will, to the profession in society at large. And there have been a lot of discussions about that. I don't know if you know, but I don't know how it is, quite frankly, in the United Kingdom. But in the United States, the leading experts of society are not considered to be sociologists, but are usually economists. See, economists have a very much stronger identity as public intellectuals in the United States. You see people like Krugman, Nobel Prize winners. Look also, for instance, at a lot of these Nobel Prize winners in the United States in economics. They tend to not study the economy. You know, they tend to study other social issues. You see, so they, and in American sociology, this model of economists has been typically indeed adopted as a model that we could learn from. And people like Krugman and so on were also at the ASA meetings. So there is a matter of publicity. And I think actually that the link public sociology publicity is anything but coincidence. Furthermore, of course, this relates to the disintegration of the profession of our education. I have no qualms about that, saying that at all. But in the United States, there's an awful lot of programs that offer an awful lot of degrees to an awful lot of students. And the quality control is not exactly always very high. So I think that to some extent, these ideas are greedily accepted by a certain mass of scholars because they are not very reflective about some of these issues that are involved, which reminds me actually that I once got a criticism from a sociologist who said, well, you keep all your work private or something, when in actuality all my work is on a website, and I noticed that this particular person didn't have any of his work publicly available, which sadly I have to tell you was due to the fact that there was no work of his to be made available. And I think so that is not coincidence at all. However, in terms of looking at it somewhat broader sociologically, I think that there's a lot of aspects of American culture and indeed of the Bush era that have to do with this. And I think actually that to some extent at least, the popularity of public sociology in the United States has to do with the fact that American culture has taken an extreme turn to the right, not only since Bush, but particularly since the war in Iraq, which is true. I mean, which is, from my point of view, is true. I mean, I've had to live with it too. And I think that this kind of, very monolithic discourse, particularly in the media, on television, where the range of let's say, of political opinions has narrowed extremely. There was only so much you could talk about at the height of, 2003, 2004, and even the, 2006, 2007, when there was some talk about civil war in Iraq, that as a counter-reaction against it, as a reaction against it, you have this turn to the left within sociology, within a more critical approach to society. However, what I have argued before, and this is something I wrote later, and what I said at a meeting, and this aroused a lot of concerns apparently, but what I said at the meeting and what I wrote here was that this anti-Iraq war resolution did not save a single life in Iraq. So,
sorry, I'm just curious what empirical evidence you base that statement on.
Because in Iraq, nothing has happened but the loss of human life. Okay? That's what I base this on. Good? Nobody has even knowledge, has even any awareness of the fact that the ASA passed this resolution.
Where do you get that information from? I'm curious. Did you ask policymakers if they were aware of it?
I don't have to. No. Because actually, if it wasn't for me writing certain letters to policymakers, they would not even be aware of it.